Hello. We're going to do this session on talking about Article 2 of the Constitution, the executive branch. This is from the Interactive Constitution website, and what it's doing is trying to make it, putting all of this in simple words. So the executive branch, it covers the presidency. We're going to talk about how it establishes the president. The president and the vice president are to be elected at the same time and serve for the same four-year term. Until 1951, presidents could serve for as many as four-year terms as they could win. But after Franklin D. Roosevelt was elected for four terms, Congress passed the states, and the states ratified Amendment 22, which limits a president to two terms or 8 years in office. In the rare case that a vice president or other official takes over for a president who has stepped down or died in office and served more than 2 years of the reigning term, he or she is limited to one term. At that time when they wrote it, rather than being elected directly by the people, the founding fathers decided they would put together the Electoral College. It is not really a college, but a group of people who are elected by the states. Each state is entitled to the number of electors equal to the combined numbers of their representatives and senators in Congress. The Electoral College still exists, and actually often will decide an election, as it did in the last election, 2016, whereas one candidate won the popular vote, the other candidate, Donald Trump, won the Electoral College, and he was president. Neither members of Congress nor other federal officials may serve as electors. Each state legislature decides how many the Electoral College are to be selected and how they are to vote. It's usually it's all or nothing. So if somebody got the majority of the popular vote, even by 2 votes, in most states, all of those Electoral College votes goes to that person. Some other states have a little bit different. So that's the Electoral College. Very important to know about that. Additional rules were added in 1804 when Amendment 12 was adopted. For example, amendment creates the way a president is selected when neither candidate obtains a majority of votes in the Electoral College, and that has happened. There are 3 minimum requirements to be elected president. You know what these are. You must be born a U.S. citizen. You have to have lived in the United States for at least 14 years consecutively, and you must be at least 35 years old. The Article 2, Section 1 originally provided who should become president if the president dies, resigns, or is moved from office. Amendment 25, added in 1967, modified the line of succession. Also, the president's salary is set by Congress. It's not as much as you would think. It's maybe, I don't know what for sure, but I think it's $400,000 a year, which isn't very much. The president is also prohibited from receiving any other types of compensation or perks while in office. Before assuming office, the president must swear or affirm to do his or her best to serve as the nation's leader and uphold the United States Constitution. That's a really important part. The president, at the inauguration ceremony, the president has his right hand on a Bible or whatever book of choice and swears to uphold the Constitution. Article 2, Section 2. These outline the jobs of the president. The president is not only the head of the executive branch, but he is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, including state National Guards, when they are called to serve in the federal armed forces. As chief executive, the president runs different executive agencies, like the Department of Treasury, the Department of Health and Human Services, and the president has the right to pardon or let free any person who has committed a federal crime, except in cases of impeachment. And we talked about impeachment. Let it be known, though, that the president cannot pardon somebody of a crime committed in the states or being prosecuted by the states. With permission from 2/3 of the senators, the president can make treaties with other countries. With the approval of the majority of the Senate, the president makes key appointments. These include ambassadors, foreign consuls, Supreme Court justices, federal judges, U.S. attorneys, U.S. marshals, cabinet officers, independent agency heads, and members of regulatory commissions. To ensure the president can fill vacancies when the Senate is not in session, The president can make any of these appointments without Senate approval, but these recess appointments end at the end of the next Senate session. Congress may choose to require Senate approval of other presidential appointments or let the president, courts, or department heads appointment staff and agency without approval by the Senate. But what you're seeing here, this is separation of powers and checks and balances at work. The president has a lot of power, but the Senate has the complete power to check on what the president's up to and balance out that power. Article 2, Section 3. The president has to report to Congress how things are going in the country. This is the State of the Union address, which occurs in January. Now it's like the third week in January, where the president has to go to the House of Representatives and address a joint meeting. It's the only time these three branches of government come together in one room, and that would be the House of Representatives, the Senate, the legislative branch, then the executive branch with the cabinet members and the president, and the judicial branch with the Supreme Court justices. The president has to report on what is going on with the union and what's going to happen next year. The president does have the power in extreme cases to call both the House of Representatives and the Senate together for a special session. And the president has the power to meet with representatives of other nations on behalf of the United States and to otherwise run the country by enforcing laws and directing officers and staff. So going on, this goes on to the impeachment. The Constitution provides that the president, vice president, other federal offices can be removed from office upon impeachment by the House and conviction by the Senate of treason, bribery, or serious crimes. The process has begun only 3 times in U.S. history against Andrew Johnson, Richard Nixon, although he resigned before he could be impeached, and Bill Clinton. The impeachment process begins in the House with a vote to impeach. Then the president or other accused government official stands trial for the accusations in the Senate. The Chief Justice of the United States presides at an impeachment trial of the president. All impeachment trials, members of the House serve as prosecutors. In all impeachment trials, members of the House serve as prosecutors, and the full Senate sits as the jury. The accused official must be convicted by 2/3 vote of the Senate to be removed from office. Remember that. That's going to come up again. So that is Article 2. Article 2 is pretty short, pretty simple, but you need to be very aware of it and really know what the president's jobs are. Thank you very much.